Sit down. I want you to look at me. Really look at me. You see an old man, a relic. You see skin like parchment paper and hands that shake when I try to hold a spoon. You probably think I'm weak. You probably think that if a strong wind blew through this porch, it would knock me over like a dried leaf. And physically, you might be right. But let me tell you something that took me 106 years to understand. I am lighter today, sitting in this chair at 106, than I was when I was 30 years old. Back then, I could lift a bag of concrete on each shoulder. I could swing a hammer for 12 hours without stopping to wipe the sweat. I had muscles like iron and a back that never hurt, but I was heavy. I was so heavy, I could barely breathe because I was carrying something that weighed more than all the bricks in New York City. I was carrying the need to be right. Do you know that weight? I think you do. I can see it in your eyes. It's that tightness in your chest when someone questions you. It's that fire in your belly when you know you have the facts and they don't. It's that heavy, invisible backpack of resentments, scorecards. And I told you so's that you drag around with you everywhere you go. I dragged that bag for 40 years. 40 years. Just think about that number. Think about how much life fits into 40 years. Watching your children grow up, building a business, loving a woman. I did all of those things, but I did them with a stone in my shoe. I did them while I was distracted. I did them while I was busy having a conversation in my head with people who weren't even in the room. We think that holding a grudge is a form of strength. That's what my father taught me. He was a tough man, came from Sicily with nothing. He taught me that a man's honor is his fortress. If someone disrespects you, you cut them off. If someone wrongs you, you never let them forget it. You hold on to that anger like it's a shield. But it's not a shield. It's a cage when you are young. You think you have infinite time. You think you can afford to spend a year or 5 years or a decade not speaking to someone because they insulted your pride. You think, I'll fix it later, or better yet, I'll wait for them to crawl back to me. You think you are punishing them. That is the great lie of the ego. You think that by staying angry, you are teaching them a lesson. You are sitting at your dinner table, chewing on your rage, rehearsing your arguments, refining your insults, and you think they are feeling it. Let me tell you the truth. They are out dancing. They are eating pasta. They are sleeping soundly. The only person drinking the poison is you. I was an addict. My drug wasn't whiskey, though I drank enough of it. My drug wasn't gambling. My drug was self-righteousness. I loved the feeling of being the victim. I loved the feeling of moral superiority. It felt good to say, I am the one who was wronged. I am the one who is honorable. It was a warm blanket on a cold night, but that blanket suffocated me, and the cost. The cost wasn't money. I made plenty of money. I built houses. I was a master carpenter. My walls were straight. My floors were level. But the foundation of my own life was cracking, and I was too proud to look down and fix it. I want to tell you a story, a specific story. It's not a pretty story. It doesn't have a happy ending where everyone hugs and the music swells. Life isn't a movie. Life is blood and time, and once the time is gone, you cannot negotiate to get it back. This is the story of how I lost the most important person in my world, not because of a tragedy, not because of a disease, but because of a fence, a stupid wooden fence. It started in 1948. The war was over. The world was rebuilding. I was young. I was ambitious. And I was foolish. I had a brother, Giovanni. He was 2 years older than me. We shared a bed until we were 16. We shared a foxhole in the Pacific. We shared everything. He was the other half of my soul. If I was the hammer, Giovanni was the nail. We worked together. We built together until November 12th, 1948. That was the day the silence began. The great silence. I want you to understand how small the match was that burned down the whole forest. We were partners, Benedetto Brothers Construction. We had survived the dust bowl-eating soup made from dandelion greens. We had survived the Pacific Theater. Me on a destroyer, him in the infantry. We came home alive when so many boys from the neighborhood came home in boxes. We thought we were invincible. We thought nothing could break us. But a bullet didn't break us. A property line did. It was a dispute over 6 inches of dirt. That's all it was. 6 inches. We bought a piece of land to build 2 houses. One for his family, one for mine. I hired a surveyor. The surveyor put the stake in the ground. Giovanni said the stake was wrong. He said I was trying to cheat him out of the driveway space. He said I was greedy. I wasn't greedy. I was right. I had the map. I had the deed. I had the facts on my side. I remember standing in the mud, rain dripping off the rim of my hat, pointing at that wooden stake. I shouted at him. I told him he was a stubborn fool. I told him he couldn't read a blueprint. He looked at me, his eyes hard, and he said, "If you move that fence, Salvatore, you move me out of your life." I didn't back down. Why should I? I was right. The math was on my side. I moved the fence, and Giovanni kept his promise. He walked off the job site that afternoon, and he never walked back. Now, you might think that's silly. Brothers fight. They cool off. They drink a glass of wine and forget about it. That's what I thought too. I went home that night and told my wife, let him pout. He'll come over for Sunday dinner. He'll apologize when he realizes how stupid he is. Sunday came. No Giovanni. A week went by. Then a month. I waited. I sat in my living room, smoking my pipe, watching the door. I told myself, I am the younger brother, but I am the one with the proof. He owes me the apology. I will not crawl to him. Pride is a strange thing. It keeps you warm for a little while. But then it starts to eat you alive from the inside out. The months turned into years. 1948 became 1950. 1950 became 1960. We lived in the same town. We went to the same church. We shopped at the same grocery store, but we became ghosts to each other. If I saw him coming down the aisle at the market, I would turn my cart and go the other way. If I saw his truck at a job site, I would drive past without turning my head. The silence grew. It became a living thing in our family. It had its own gravity. Our wives, God bless them, they tried to fix it. They passed notes. They begged. But I shut them down. He called me a thief, I would say. He disrespected me until he takes it back. He is dead to me. Think about the arrogance of that statement. He is dead to me. I spoke those words with such confidence, like I was a king passing a sentence. I didn't know then that I was sentencing myself to 32 years of solitary confinement. 32 years. Do you know what you miss in 32 years? I missed his daughter's wedding, my own niece, Maria. I watched her grow up from a distance. I saw her walking to school. I saw her in her prom dress from across the street. I wanted to wave. I wanted to run over and give her $5 and tell her she looked beautiful like a Benedetto, but I didn't. I stayed on my porch. I stayed behind my invisible fence. I missed the day he became a grandfather. I missed the nights he was sick, and he missed my life too when my son broke his leg. Giovanni wasn't there. When my business almost went under in 1974, I didn't have my partner to lean on. I had to face it alone. I became hard. That's what happens when you hold a grudge. You have to harden your heart to keep the love out. You have to build a callus over your soul. I became a stone man. I was short with my wife. I was strict with my kids. I couldn't laugh, not really, because there was always this shadow hanging over me, this unfinished business. I would lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, having arguments with Giovanni in my head. I would replay that day in 1948 over and over. I would list all the reasons why I was justified. I would win the argument in my mind every single night. I was right. I was so right. I had the surveyor's report. I had the deed. I had the 6 inches of dirt. I won the argument, but I lost the brother. And let me tell you, that dirt, it didn't keep me warm at night. It didn't tell me jokes. It didn't remember how our mother used to sing in the kitchen. It was just dirt, but I held onto it. I held onto it with both hands until my knuckles turned white, because I was afraid that if I let go, if I admitted that maybe, just maybe, the relationship was worth more than being right, then I would have to face the fact that I was a fool. And a man would rather burn down his whole house than admit he was a fool. So I waited. I waited for the phone to ring. I waited for the apology that never came. I waited until time, which is the only thing you can't buy more of, ran out completely. It ended on November 12th, 1980. I remember the date because it is carved into my memory deeper than any name on a tombstone. It was a Wednesday. It was raining, a cold, miserable November rain that rattled the windows. The phone rang at 3:14 in the morning. You know that sound. Everyone knows that sound. When the phone rings in the middle of the night, it is never a lottery win. It is never a friend calling to say hello. It is the sound of your life changing forever. I picked it up. My hand was shaking before I even heard a voice. It was my nephew, Giovanni's son, Anthony. He was crying. He could barely get the words out. Uncle. Sal, it's Pop, it's his heart. You need to come. Now, I didn't ask questions. I didn't ask which hospital. I knew. I threw on my coat over my pajamas. I didn't tie my shoes. I grabbed my keys and I ran out into the rain. The drive to St. Mary's Hospital took 12 minutes. I drove like a madman. I ran red lights. I swerved around a delivery truck, and the whole time, for those 12 agonizing minutes, I was making a speech in my head. I was finally ready. The fear of losing him had finally become stronger than the pride of being right. I gripped the steering wheel and I said out loud to the empty car, Giovanni, I'm sorry. The fence doesn't matter. The land doesn't matter. I was a fool. I love you. Just wake up and I'll fix it. I made a deal with God. You know the kind. God, if you let him live, I will never hold a grudge again. I will be the best brother in the world. Just give me 5 minutes. I just wanted 5 minutes. I wanted to look him in the eye. I wanted to shake his hand. I wanted to hear his voice call me little brother one more time. I wanted to erase 32 years of silence with one moment of grace. I pulled up to the emergency room entrance. I left the car running. I didn't care. I ran through the automatic doors. The smell hit me first, that terrible mix of ammonia and sickness. The fluorescent lights were humming, buzzing like angry hornets. I saw Anthony at the end of the hallway. He was standing outside room 304. He was leaning against the wall, looking at the floor when he saw me. He didn't wave. He just shook his head. A tiny movement, just a slight shake to the left and then to the right. My legs gave out. I didn't fall, but I felt the ground disappear. Beneath me, I walked to the door. I walked slowly now. There was no reason to run anymore. The race was over. I walked into the room, and there he was, my brother, my partner, the man who taught me how to throw a baseball. The man who pulled me out of the water when I fell off the dock in 1932, he was lying on the bed, eyes closed, mouth slightly open. He looked so small, that was the thing that shocked me. He was always the big brother. He was a giant to me, but death had made him small. The nurse was pulling a white sheet up over his chest. She stopped when she saw me. She looked at me with pity. I hated that look. I walked to the side of the bed. I reached out and touched his hand. It was still warm. That broke me. That warmth. It was the fading heat of a life I had refused to be part of for 3 decades. I stood there, gripping his dead hand, and I realized the magnitude of my mistake. I looked at his face. I looked for the anger. I looked for the stubbornness. It was all gone. All that was left was silence. And in that silence, The truth hit me like a sledgehammer. I had won. I had kept my 6 inches of land. I had proved my point. I had never apologized. I had never backed down. I was the victor, and standing there, holding the hand of my dead brother, my victory tasted like ash in my mouth. I realized that being right is the most useless thing in the world when you are standing at a funeral. You can't hug being right. You can't laugh with being right. You can't reminisce about the old days with being right. All I had was a deed to a piece of dirt and a hole in my heart that would never, ever be filled. I leaned down and I whispered into his ear. I whispered the words I should have said in 1948. I whispered the words I should have said in 1950, in 1960, in 1970. I'm sorry, Giovanni. I'm so sorry, but he couldn't hear me. The time for apologies had passed. The window had closed, and I was left alone in that cold white room with the crushing weight of everything I had left unsaid. We buried Giovanni on a Saturday. It was a bright, cold morning. The sun was shining, which felt like an insult. The world should have been dark. It should have been grieving. But the birds were singing and the traffic was moving, because the world doesn't stop for your regrets. I stood at the graveside. I threw the first handful of dirt onto his coffin. That sound, dirt hitting wood. Thud, thud, thud. It was the heaviest sound I have ever heard. It sounded like a door slamming shut. A door that would never open again. For weeks after the funeral, I was a ghost in my own house. I stopped working. I stopped shaving. I would sit by the window and stare at that fence, that cursed wooden fence that I had fought so hard for. I hated it. I wanted to burn it down with my bare hands. I was drowning in the what ifs. What if I had called him in 1955? What if I had just invited him for a beer? What if I had accepted that being happy was more important than being right? I was punishing myself. I thought that if I suffered enough, it would somehow pay for my mistake. I thought guilt was a form of penance. But guilt is useless. It's just another stone in the backpack. My wife, Martha, God rest her soul, she saved my life. She watched me wither away for 2 months. She watched me turn into a bitter, silent old man at 62. And one morning she had enough. She slammed a cup of coffee down on the table in front of me. Coffee spilled over the rim. Salvatore, she said. Her voice was sharp. Look at me. I looked up. Giovanni is gone, she said, and you cannot bring him back, not with your tears, not with your silence, and certainly not by dying in this chair. She pointed out the window. You spent 32 years building a wall between you and your brother. Don't you dare spend the rest of your life building a wall between you and us. You are still here. Act like it. She was right. I realized I was making the same mistake again. I was letting my pride this time, my pride in my own suffering, keep me away from the people who were still alive. I stood up. I finished my coffee. And then I went to the garage. I grabbed my claw hammer. I grabbed my pry bar. I walked out into the yard. I walked up to that fence. The wood was gray now, weathered, rotting in places. I didn't call a crew. I didn't ask for help. I started ripping it down, board by board, nail by nail. I worked until my hands blistered. I worked until my back screamed. I worked until the sun went down and the sweat was stinging my eyes. With every board I ripped loose, I felt something crack inside my chest. It wasn't a bone. It was the armor. It was that hard shell I had built around myself to prove I was right. When the fence was gone, I didn't stop there. I went inside and picked up the phone. I dialed a number I hadn't called in decades. "Anthony," I said. My voice cracked. "It's Uncle Sal." There was a silence on the other end, a long, heavy silence. I deserved it. I expected him to hang up, but he didn't. "Hello, Uncle Sal," he said softly. "Anthony, I want to come over," I said. "I want to see the kids. I want to tell you stories about your father, the good stories before the fence." That night I sat at my nephew's dinner table. I ate lasagna with Giovanni's grandchildren. I looked at photos of my brother that I had never seen. I saw him laughing at a beach. I saw him holding a fish. I saw a whole life that I had missed because I was too stubborn to pick up a telephone. I cried that night, not tears of grief, but tears of release. And then I started on the rest of my life. I looked at my own children. I had been hard on them too. I had been a stone man to them because I was so busy being angry at their uncle. I sat my son down. I sat my daughter down. I said 3 words that most men of my generation would rather die than say. I was wrong. I told them, I have been a fool. I let anger run this house. I let a grudge steal my joy, and I am sorry. It didn't fix everything overnight. You can't heal a 30-year wound with one bandage, but it started the healing. I learned something in those years after Giovanni died. Forgiveness isn't something you do for the other person. I used to think forgiveness was a weakness. I thought it was saying what you did is okay. It's not. Forgiveness is saying, I am not going to carry this stone anymore. It is an act of selfishness in the best possible way. You forgive them so you can breathe. You forgive them so you can sleep. You forgive them so you don't end up a bitter old man staring at a fence that separates you from your own happiness. I tore down the fence in my yard, but the real work was tearing down the fence in my heart. And let me tell you, the view without that fence, it was beautiful. So here we are. I have told you my darkest secret. I have shown you the scars on my soul, and now I want to talk to you, not to the crowd, not to the world, just to you. I look at your generation, and I worry. You live in a world where it is so easy to cut people off. You have buttons on your phones, block, unfriend, delete. You can erase a person from your life with one tap of your thumb. You think it is efficient. You think it is self-care. But let an old man tell you something about deleting people. When you cut someone off, You are not just removing them. You are digging a trench. And if you dig enough trenches, eventually you are standing on an island. You are safe on your island. No one can hurt you there. No one can annoy you. No one can challenge you. But nothing grows on an island of one. It is a desert, and it is quiet, so terribly quiet. I see you carrying your own stones. I see the anger you hold against your father. I see the grudge you hold against that friend who didn't invite you to the party. I see the silence between you and your sister because of something she said. 5 years ago, you tell yourself they don't deserve my forgiveness. You are probably right. My brother didn't deserve an apology. He was stubborn. He was rude. He started the fight just as much as I did. But listen to me closely. Forgiveness has nothing to do with deserving. If we only forgave the people who deserved it, the human race would have gone extinct 1,000 years ago. You don't forgive them for their sake. You forgive them for yours. You forgive them so you don't have to carry that invisible backpack anymore. You forgive them so you don't have to rehearse the argument in the shower every morning. You forgive them so you don't have to be the stone man or the ice queen. I want you to do something for me. I want you to think of a name right now. Don't look away. Let the name come into your head. The person you are ignoring. The person you are punishing with your silence. The person you have sworn you will never speak to again until they crawl to you. You have the name? Good. Now, I want you to imagine your phone ringing at 3:14 in the morning. Imagine the rain hitting the window. Imagine the voice on the other end telling you it's too late. Imagine standing in that cold hospital room, looking at their face and realizing that your victory is worthless. Do you want that? Is being right worth that feeling? I would give every dollar I have. I would give this house. I would give the breath in my lungs just to have 5 minutes to argue with my brother again, just to hear him call me an idiot one more time. But I can't. You can. You still have the luxury of time. But time is a tricky thing. It feels infinite until it isn't. It feels like an ocean until it becomes a drop. So here is my challenge to you. Today, not tomorrow, not on their birthday. Today, pick up the phone. It will weigh 1,000 pounds. Your pride will scream at you. Your ego will tell you that you are weak. Ignore them. Pick up the phone and dial the number. You don't have to say I was wrong if you aren't ready. You don't have to become best friends again. Just break the silence. Say I've been thinking about you. Say I don't want to fight anymore. Say life is too short for this. Maybe they will hang up on you. Maybe they will yell. It doesn't matter, because at least you will know that you put down the stone. You broke the cage. You chose love over pride. I am 106 years old. I have built 500 houses. I have built fences, and I have torn them down. And I can tell you this. At the end of your life, when the lights go dim and the room goes quiet, you will not remember the arguments you won. You will not remember the points you proved. You will remember the hands you held. You will remember the dinners you shared. You will remember the sound of a voice saying, I love you. Don't wait until the funeral. To buy the flowers. Don't wait until the hospital to say the words. Go home. Hug your family. Call your brother. Be a fool for love, because being a king of an empty castle is the poorest way to die. Now put down this screen and go make the call.